Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David KRAYDEN. Welcome to Saturday, October 5th. And when we come back, the latest on what's happening in the House of Commons.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.
Yeah, I just received a call actually from the opposition leaders. House. That's why I got distracted here. I'm going to have to call them back when we play the next video. But thank you so much for watching today. And these are exciting times, really very exciting times. And I just want to reiterate, Justin Trudeau is oblivious to what's going on here. And what's going on here again? The House is shut down. There's a battle over sending green slush fund docs to the RCMP. This is uncharted territory, according to the Liberal House leader. It doesn't want this to happen. The government does not want these documents seen by the RCMP, although it's clear the RCMP really isn't that interested in these documents. And I'm literally, like I say, I've got to get back in touch with the leader of the opposition's press people because I'm looking to speak to Michael Barrett, the Ontario Conservative MP, who has the lead on this corruption file right now. So I think this is very exciting stuff. What's going on here, and I am very excited about what's going on. So this is Michael Barrett here. Government has been brought to a standstill following the Speaker's ruling. But the funny thing is, you're not going to see any of this. You're not going to see any of this on the mainstream media right now. Now, the RCMP are claiming that they're investigating the Green Slush Fund. This is the Sustainable Development Technology Canada. This is nothing but a liberal excuse to spend your tax dollars. And of course, it's not going to work, is it? Absolutely not. But of course, it will if the Liberals stay in power. But I am told by a source within the Conservative Party communications that the RCMP is not investigating this. They are not. And if we get Michael Barrett on the show later today or tomorrow morning, we will be investigating that further. So I look forward to doing that. And let's just have a look here. Now, this is Justin Trudeau's news conference just before he escaped. Justin Trudeau has left the country at the height of the scandal, the height of this controversy. He has said nothing about it. And what's more important, the mainstream media is not asking any questions. Here's the news conference. He's going to the Francophonie Summit in Paris, bringing along his usual sidekicks, Premier of Quebec, Premier of New Brunswick, and of course, Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly. She'll be joining Trudeau on the trip to Paris. But here's the news conference. I find this utterly fascinating because Justin Trudeau doesn't address this at all. Just watching.
Prime Minister Jeremy Sharon, CTV News. Your House leader seems open to negotiations with Le Bloc Québécois on increasing OAS for more seniors. What kind of increase are you willing to consider to meet the Bloc's demands by October 29th?
We will continue to focus on what we need to do to deliver for Canadians. Our focus, whether it's been investing in seniors with things like dental care or increasing the GIS or increasing OAS for seniors over 75, has demonstrated our commitment to seniors. But the one thing I won't do internationally is get into domestic political disagreements. know that we remain focused on working for Canadians and are open to working with anyone who's putting forward constructive ideas that are going to make things better for Canadians and for the future that we're all building together.
And on the increasing tension in Lebanon, your government has been urging Canadians to leave the country, so far through commercial flights through the airport. We've seen bombings near the airport now. How concerned are you?
This is news as it happens, folks. Like I was just on the line there with a Conservative Party press secretary to find out, not the press secretary, one of the people in the OL, the office of the leader of the opposition, trying to figure out when we can talk to Michael Barrett, either today or tomorrow, about this issue. But you can see Justin Trudeau at this news conference. Reporters are asking him about the Middle East. Yeah, that's important. Sure it is. They're asking him about the support of the bloc, which, of course, Justin Trudeau says, well, all the parties have great ideas, including the separatist, treasonous, traitorous bloc party. So we'll work with them. But interestingly enough, there's not a single question about the crisis, the unfolding crisis in the House of Commons, the fact that government business has ground to a halt. Not a single question about that to Justin Trudeau. The mainstream media doesn't want to talk about it. It's off limits. And of course, it gets worse with Justin Trudeau here. He gets into that usual arrogance about, I'm not here to talk. I don't do politics, folks. I don't do politics. And it really is quite something. Let's watch the rest of it.
About the viability of the airport as an option right now to get Canadians out.
We have highlighted many times it's important to ensure that civilian infrastructure like the Port of Beirut and the airport are properly protected and not struck. We're increasing support for commercial flights. There are spaces for Canadians on those planes that have not at this point been filled. So I'll encourage any Canadian who can leave Lebanon to leave Lebanon. We are ensuring flights to be able to do that, because if the situation gets worse, as we are working very hard to try and prevent it from getting worse, it will be extraordinarily difficult for the tens of thousands of Canadians who are currently in Lebanon, and obviously extraordinarily difficult for all Lebanese civilians if things get worse.
My second question is more on domestic politics. Your friend Gerald Butts recently said in an interview that a fall election is likely. Do you agree with him?
My focus is on continuing to deliver concrete measures for Canadians. We're about to work on pharmacare in the House, and that's going to deliver free insulin to people suffering diabetes, free contraceptive prescriptions, prescription contraceptive and contraceptive devices to women across the country. These are things that Canadians need, particularly at a time where every dollar counts in a family budget. We're going to continue to focus on the things like dental care that have already helped over 800,000 seniors. We're going to focus on things like expanding more childcare spaces at $10 a day across the country. We're going to continue to be investing in both fighting against climate change and creating good jobs. That's my focus. I'll let other people talk about politics.
Do you believe this? I'll let other people talk about politics. There he goes. I don't do politics. No, this is not about politics. What's it about, Justin? Can you please explain that? It's not about politics. It's about preservation of your power? Could that possibly be it? But no, Justin's not there to talk about politics. Not at all. Now, I'm going to get back to this in a minute, but I want to show you this clip again of Michael Barrett, whom I hope to have on the show in the next 24 hours to discuss this. This is the Conservative MP from Ontario who has the lead on the corruption file right now. And I want you to watch this.
Finds the matter to be a prima facie case, a question of privilege. Accordingly, I would now invite the member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes to move his motion. The honourable member.
that the House, having considered the unanimous views of the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics expressed in its 12th report, finds Stephen Anderson to be in contempt for his failure to provide the information which the committee had ordered him to produce, and accordingly order him to attend at the bar of this House at the expiry of the time provided for oral questions on the next Wednesday the House sits, which is at least 1 week following the adoption of this order, for the purposes of
Sorry, we're gonna.
Mr. Barrett, seconded by Mr. Macaulay, Edmonton West, move that the House, having considered the unanimous views of the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics expressed in its 12th report, finds
We have to get through this.
The motion is in order. Debate. The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, here we go again. And we're here in this place dealing with another example.
Now I'm showing this again. I think I showed this clip yesterday because it's important to know he defines the issue here brilliantly. And succinctly and comprehensively. So this is why I'm showing this again. I think it's very important to understand exactly what's at stake here.
Of Liberals who don't seem to understand that their job is to represent Canadians and not represent the best interests of their best friends and their business partners. Of course, I'm talking about the saga of the other Randy. So we don't know who the other Randy is, and that's one of the main reasons that we find ourselves here today. One of the questions that the witness, Mr. Anderson, refused to provide to committee when he had an obligation to do so. Now, why do we need to know who the other Randy is? Well, at the heart of this is the minister from Edmonton, the Liberal minister from Edmonton, who was found out to own 50% of a business while he was serving in a cabinet, and it was believed that he was directing the operations of that company. Now, the minister said, of course, it's another Randy. We heard from members of the Liberal caucus that perhaps it was Randeep, and we heard from the witness, Mr. Anderson, that he could only tell us if we held an in-camera, a private meeting of the Ethics Committee so that he would reveal it to us. Now, the committee rejected that. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. If they've got nothing to hide, they should show us who the other Randy is. But it gets worse, because in the multiple appearances at committee that we've had of witnesses on this strange story of the Liberal minister from Edmonton and his business dealings, we learned, of course, that this NDP Liberal government did award a contract to that Liberal minister's business while he was serving in cabinet. That's outrageous. And of course, it's not allowed under the conflict of interest regime that we have in this country. Said another way, it's illegal. And we heard from the minister, he said when he first appeared at committee that he hadn't been in touch with his business partner, Mr. Anderson, in 2022. He said it. He was explicit that he hadn't. But the thing is about this company and about everyone who seems to be involved in it is that it's pretty sketchy. And that sketchy company is involved in a massive lawsuit that alleges fraud of $500,000. There's an unexplained but suspicious warehouse fire that targeted only the inventory at this Liberal minister's company's warehouse. And so through the legal system, we're learning through the disclosures that there has in fact been contact in direct contradiction to what that Liberal minister said.
So we've got two major scandals brewing here. This is why the business of the House is ground to a halt. Randy Boissonnault, the employment minister, we want to know whether or not he was lobbying for his company the same time he was a minister. This is a flagrant violation, not only of parliamentary rules, but the law. And we need to know the truth about this. When Randy's business partner appeared before the ethics committee, he utterly failed to make a case to the contrary. Barrett's been on top of this, as well as Edmonton MP Michael Cooper. Got to give some applause for Cooper as well. He's done some great work on this file. But of course, the thing that is hanging over Trudeau's head right now is the fact that there is a green slush fund. The RCMP is aware of it, but apparently doesn't really give a damn. But we need to know. We need some answers as to how millions, hundreds of millions of dollars were misspent by this corrupt Liberal government. And the business of the House has ground to a halt until we get some more answers. Not seeing this in the mainstream media. Not seeing this being asked at the news conference before Trudeau waves goodbye on his way to Paris, to the Francophonie Summit. And this is outrageous. Another failure of Canadian democracy. Now, I want to touch on one other issue here. It's very close to my heart, and that is the Hurricane Helene. It has decimated, devastated huge swaths of the South, including, interestingly enough, red states: Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee. Now, North Carolina has been particularly hard hit, but the rural parts, those are Republican voters. You know what they offered? You know what the Democratic regime in Washington, the Biden-Harris administration offered? $750, just like they did in Maui. That'll get you groceries for maybe a week or two for a family of 4, if you can find a grocery store. These people are, in some cases, being they've tied their children up in trees. And the Biden administration doesn't give a damn about this because they're not their voters. A lot of them are scared if they manage to survive, if they live through this catastrophe, are they going to be able to vote? Because they won't have ID. Maybe they lost their ID, they lost their homes. But illegals can vote. And there's lots of money for illegals to set them up in apartments, set them up in hotels, give them thousands of dollars in credit cards. Lots of money for illegals in the United States. Lots of money. Listen to retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who was briefly National Security Advisor for President Donald Trump, talk about the reality. This is shocking. I saved this for last. Don't miss this. This is about a 4-minute clip, but it is shocking. General Flynn says the death toll is not 200 and a bit. It's going to possibly rise to over 2,000. And the Biden administration is doing nothing about it.
North Carolina, there's over 1,000 dead that have been confirmed to me with just the body bags that have been filled. There are insufficient numbers of body bags, so there are dead bodies lying aside, and this is mainly up in North Carolina, that is already pushing over 1,000. My guess is that by the time we look at all of what has happened, we're going to be probably somewhere around 2,000 or north of 2,000 dead people. There are still people caught up in the hills of North Carolina and eastern Tennessee that their towns were completely wiped out. They're totally isolated. Homes are gone. And one of the things I want people to understand is that one of the things that you consider for humanitarian disaster recovery and relief operations, one of the first things you look at is the terrain and the weather conditions that are impending, right? So at nighttime right now up in the mountains of North Carolina, I'm very familiar with this area. I've trained up in there. I've been up in there many times in my experiences in the military, especially at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I won't call it the other name, but Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which I will talk to in a second here with the potential deployment of other resources that the government has. So the weather conditions right now are wet. They are, because it's misty at nighttime, it rains at night. We're looking at weather temperatures that are in the low 30s. And in another week or two, certainly by the end of this month, we're going to start to see freezing conditions possibly even an early snow in the mountains of North Carolina, where these people are still walking around with nothing. So when because I want to talk about what types of resources need to be brought to bear and the things that I know that are being done. So the big picture is we're going to probably be north of 2,000 dead. We have at least 150 counties, maybe 200 counties from northern Florida all the way up into western North Carolina that are in this disaster zone. The federal government has done nothing. One other strategic component here, Benny, and for your audience, when they talk about FEMA's out of money or the federal government's out of money, first of all, it's our money. So never forget that, folks. Secondly, our government has disaster recovery response funds, and Congress, and now I'm talking directly to Speaker Johnson, right? Congress can reallocate funds. So funds that are being allocated overseas to some other crazy endeavor that we don't need to be part of, they can reallocate funds with one simple vote. And actually, it's the Speaker of the House that can do that. So I don't want people to go, well, FEMA's out of money, the government's out. No, that first of all, it's our money. And the Speaker of the House has the authority to be able to reallocate from one line item to another line item, especially for disaster recovery in the United States of America. And the President of the United States can do it with a stroke. It doesn't even take a pen. It could just be direct these funds to go to that effort immediately. The second thing is the President of the United States has the full authority to call out and federalize the National Guard, okay? And we probably are looking at a division's worth of capabilities that we need. So an Army division's worth of capabilities. So that's roughly somewhere between 15 and 20,000 personnel from that we can get from the National Guard right now, with all of the logistics, all of the communications, all of the tonnage, all of the what they call mobile kitchen trailers. I mean, for food. I mean, we can do water purification. The little numbers that have been sent, I think it's 1,000 from the Fort Bragg area, and there's like another 500. This is just in North Carolina. We need a full mobilization right now, and I'm serious about this. If you sprinkled fairy dust on me today and put me in charge, we would have an entire active duty division, because the active duty division, more than the National Guard has to come in. They got to go through all kinds of processes. They don't respond as quickly. So the 82nd Airborne Division, which is a 3-hour drive from the Western Hills of North Carolina, not like, a day or two to get there. They have capabilities that can be there literally in 2 hours, 4 hours, 24 hours. And I'm talking about large packages of the full complement of everything that Nick was just talking about.
So that is absolutely shocking. That is absolutely shocking what is happening here. Do you feel like you're living in a dystopian novel right now, where you've got the House of Commons ground to a halt and nobody wants to talk about it in the mainstream media? Not happening. Not real. Justin Trudeau flies off to a Francophonie Summit in the midst of this. Huge corruption. Blatant, flagrant corruption going on with this Liberal government. Justin Trudeau doesn't want to talk about it because he doesn't do politics in the United States. Joe Biden doesn't do politics either, but he doesn't save the lives of anybody. He sat on the beach on his fat behind throughout this entire first weekend of Hurricane Helen. He did nothing. He sends his vice president, the Democratic presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, down to have a look. She gets a photo op and promptly goes home and offers $750 for your trouble, folks. That's the state of politics today. It is enough to make you puke. It's enough to make you say there's something wrong with the minds of these people. They're not thinking straight, or they're just so immoral, so corrupt that nothing bothers them anymore except the pursuit of power. This is the state of the world today on October 5th. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I'll be back maybe even later today with this interview with Michael Barrett. I'm looking forward to this to get some answers, because unlike a lot of these people on YouTube, I don't sit on my behind and just watch other people do the news. I produce the news. and I go out and talk to people. That's what a journalist's supposed to do. But thank you for watching. Thank you so much. And we'll be back definitely tomorrow with all the news you need to know so you can continue to resolve to resist. And that's what we all need to do. Thank you so much.